Hi, everybody. Welcome to this month's Journal Square Community Association meeting. Thanks for joining us for what will be the last online-only meeting this year. We are excited to resume in-person meetings again, beginning with next month's barbecue at the Apple Tree House. Our meeting is being streamed through Facebook Live and also streamed on Twitter and YouTube. Comments and questions are welcome. And I'll begin with the treasurer's report. The balance for our general fund is $3,280.86. The balance for our Bergen Arches fund is $29,745.03. The balance for our Bergen Square Day fund is $5,485.33. And the balance for the Bergen Square 360 booklet fund is $2,055.46. And the overall balance of JSQCA accounts is $40,566.68. For those of you who missed our June meeting, brief recap, we had a very positive meeting with Mayor Fulop last month. He was joined by a half dozen city officials, and they stayed with us for a full 2 hours. And one highlight was the mayor's announcement that the city plans to convert the Apple Tree House into Jersey City History Museum. As many of you know, the Apple Tree House is a historic site in Jersey City, in our very own Bergen Square neighborhood. And on that note, our first speaker is James Thievler. James is a historian, member of our board, and the chair of our history committee. And he will give a brief presentation on the history of Journal Square and Bergen Square, as well as updating us on the city's plans for converting the Apple Tree House into the History Museum and our plans for Bergen Square Day. After that, we'll have JCTC here, Jersey City Theater Center. But for now, we'll begin with James. Take it away, James.
Very good. Thank you, Dario, and welcome, everyone. Let me try to get my screen up here. Are we good? Everybody see the screen?
Not yet.
Okay, hold on. My share screen option is not coming on. Do you guys need to enable that? When I click on share screen, it doesn't work. It did before.
Do you see like a red line through the share screen? Okay.
Is anybody else sharing? If anybody else in the studio is sharing, if you could stop sharing your screen for the moment. But I don't think anybody else is sharing, so.
Yeah, I have that red line across share screen.
Yeah, you should be able to share.
James, could you possibly just reload your browser window, or just close the browser and reopen it without doing anything? Or
yeah, you could try. Can you try if you click? Oh, you'll have to come back.
It'll be worth it, everybody. Should get this worked out in 1 minute.
It worked before, but no, I have this red line.
Yeah, that's okay. The red line is fine. If you could click it.
Do you see like a notification asking you if you want to share a screen or anything?
Nope.
And now you're on your window, in the same window? Oh, wait, 1 second. Got it.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Got it.
Yeah, we see it.
Very good. All right, well, let's go back to the opening slide. All right, everybody, good. Let's take a little tour here. What we're viewing tonight is excerpted partially from Bergen Square 360, which will be a nice little booklet published for Bergen Square Day on October 23rd. And this is funded in part by a grant from, as you can see on the screen. Okay, so everyone can look forward to that. So this is just some things that through my research I've pulled out that I think might be of interest to everyone. So here we go. The world is turning and Bergen Square evolves. So I want us to think. Oh, and by the way, it was introduced as a history Journal Square and Bergen Square. The focus tonight will be mostly on Bergen Square. Um, we did Journal Square in full back in February with the transportation presentation. So tonight, get ready for just yeah. Of course, it's in Journal Square, so it's both. But that's the focus is Bergen Square. So the questions: Bergen Square is a location of what? A destination for what? A place for what? Now we're going to talk about the idea of commemoration, because Bergen Square has been a location, destination, and place for that. And we can make some interesting discoveries by looking at the way that Bergen Square, and Jersey City for that matter, have been commemorated over the years. So let's dive in. Let's start with the familiar image. Everyone's seen this one many times. This is an artist rendering of the original settlement, fort, if you will, because it has the stockade. Let's see if I can get my laser pointer going here. Sure. Yeah, you see the stockade here. Whoops. Oh, no. Back to that. There's the original church. Again, this is an artist rendering, but it's based upon accounts. I do want to, this was the original, as most of you already know, Dutch settlement, 1660, etc. I'm not going to linger tonight on the Dutch history because I've done that for everyone many times, and many of you are already aware of that. But just for a second, let's consider what this was before the Dutch settlement. We know no written history from the Lenape, and more specifically the local Hackensack Indians. But we know from the Dutch accounts primarily that the Hackensack Indians, who lived just to the west of where we are, would migrate down to the North River, Hudson River, in the warmer months to make use of the what the water offered. But we also know that they used the high ground, which stretched from way north up by today Fort Lee, all the way down to the south to Bergen Point or southern tip of Bayonne, etc. That high ground, the Palisades, as we know them, was a place where they would stop on their way down to the river, clear some ground, and grow corn. They referred to this, the Dutch, as maize country, the higher ground. So it could very well be. I mean, I'm thinking that where they decided to place this original square, that land might have already been cleared by the Indians, because we do know, it's recorded history, that they had various plots all along the Palisades where they grew maize or corn. All right, so let's continue. But yeah, what this original square, what was the primary destination? Well, right there in the middle, we have the well. And this is probably an accurate depiction because we have two of them. Here, it's the well is seen again here in the middle of this. This is actually a model of the original Bergen that was made for the 1960 tercentenary celebration. It was on display in Lincoln Park, and I have no idea what became of it, whether it was just immediately dismantled. But anyway, you see the well again. The well was critical. That's what they came into the square for. You know, if we go back, yeah, there were some houses inside the stockade, but very quickly we know that they were given land, pieces of land to build and grow, farm outside of the stockade. But they'd come in for the water, at least at first. All right, there it is. Well, pictured there in this very interesting model that someone made, 1960. All right, then moving on in time, but in a similar vein, a connection we can make. This is Bergen Square in the very early 20th century. Maybe I don't have an exact date for this. It's somewhere around the turn of the 20th century. What you're looking at is the southeast corner, and this is a store for food, provisions, groceries. It was called Apgar Brothers store. Another picture of it here. So in the 19th century, we know that Bergen had transitioned, you know, from before the Revolution as primarily an agrarian outpost into the 19th century as Jersey City grew and consolidated. Bergen Square was, and the railroads came through just to the north in Journal Square. we can think of Bergen as somewhat of a suburban place. And people still had to come, though, into the square for provisions. And where would they go? They went to Apgar's. This store, I found it lasting from 1892 to 1915. And then, in the interest of seeing the evolving Bergen Square, here's that very same corner today. Bank of America and apartments. So we might suggest what has Bergen Square become. Here's the evidence, and you can make of it what you will. All right, let's keep going. This is now looking, this picture is from very early in the 20th century, maybe even into the 19th century. This would be looking at the west side of Bergen Square. This is Academy Street, cutting right in through here. I don't know if everyone can read the caption, but it says, house being demolished here was at southwest corner of Bergen and Academy Street. In final years, it was home of James T. Goff, or Go, downtown butcher. So he commuted. This was his suburban home. And then it was the home of Dr. Hamel. We know that a lot of doctors had their homes in Bergen in the 19th century. And on the right here, this would be where Seatown is now. This was the one-time parsonage of Old Bergen Church. That is to say, where the pastor lived. And you can see right here, there's our Van Wegenen apple tree house. All right, moving on. Cut to 1948. All right. I think this is an interesting picture. Here we have the apple tree house again. This is looking at the northwest corner. In here now is all retail. That's what it's become by then. We also see the presence of course, the automobile. Very strong presence, even at this time in 1948. Still streetcar tracks, trolley tracks, present down Bergen Avenue. And I think it's interesting, too, you have this, I connected this to today, right? We see a woman pushing a baby carriage. Go out on Bergen Square today, what do you see during the day? A lot of strollers, right? So it's fascinating. All right. Now this would be looking, this is from 1952, and this is looking west. This strip of retail here with the parking area in front, that's where Seatown is, of course. This was actually, was a fire safety event in 1952 in Bergen Square. There is fire department represented, the trucks all back here. So keep that in your heads. 1952, they had a fire safety event in Bergen Square, and everyone here is facing the school. BS 11 is right back here. So remember that. All right. Bergen Square continues to change. Bingo, Seatown. So people still go to Bergen Square for provisions. We all know that, right? There aren't a heck of a lot of supermarkets in Journal Square. So if we want to define Bergen Square today, people go for their food and groceries. All right. Let's keep going. Nonetheless, we also have empty retail space. This would be in the southwest corner. We can put our imaginations to work. What should come in here? It's empty right now. Go across the street. This would be looking at the southeast corner in Bergen Square. More empty retail. Retail space for lease. What should we put there? What should someone put there? That's something to think about. All right. And then we have the famous parking garage, rumored to be, or stated to be, the first elevated or multi-story parking garage in the United States. I have yet to substantiate that. It's been written, but I need to do some more work there. But yeah, we can maybe define Bergen Square, Journal Square, a place where both cars and people live, and then consider the question. It's an ongoing question that we all have. How well do they get along? Okay. Let's go to an iconic image associated with Bergen Square, the Bergen Memorial Monument, famously erected for the 1910 250th anniversary. You see Director General Peter Stuyvesant and the magnificent base that that statue was placed on. It's interesting and noteworthy that this statue was placed there and Stuyvesant positioned as he is in 1910. One of the things I want us to start to think about as we proceed through these slides is we're studying not just the history, but the way that people in different time periods presented the history. All right, so we're gonna see how that is, because what does that tell us? Yeah, that tells us the history, or at least one view of it, but it also tells us about that time, that moment in time when people were presenting it, what was happening then. This is 1910. Let's cut ahead 50 some years. Oops, 1968. Peter is positioned differently. You remember a few slides ago, there was a fire safety event right in front of the school. Maybe they didn't get their message across. The school burned down 1968. As we know, PS 11 lives on. It was rebuilt as the Martin Luther King School, and Stuyvesant was put in storage. So what's going on in 1968? PS 11 burns down. They rebuild it and call it Martin Luther King School. And they take Stuyvesant and put him in storage. Maybe that tells us about something about what's happening in 1968. All right, let's explore the evolution of the school a little bit. Here's the rendering of the original Columbia Academy. That was at the same location, of course, as PS 11 today. Here's the 19th century structure that lasted well into the 20th century until 1968. Over here on the right, there's Apgar's grocery store. This is Academy Street running through here. All right, now this is the school in 1960, I believe, for the 1960 tercentenary. And it's interesting, this way I can't see it. This could be 1910. I think this is 1910, excuse me. A flag display. But look at the flags. Most of them are American flags or American flag style bunting. There might be some others that I'm trying to identify. One of the things that we are going to do on Bergen Square Day this year is string flags, but they will be from all over the world because people from all over the world now live in Bergen Square. Okay. And here's the school today. So we've seen a change from the original Columbia Academy to modern day Martin Luther King School, PS 11, situated there, and it's still one of the foundational features and a primary destination point in Bergen Square. If you go out there on any single day, the movement in and out of and around the school and the people who are going in and out really, with Seatown across the way, define 21st century Bergen Square. All right, so on to commemorations. I think this is an interesting thing for us to check out. 1910, 250th. 1930 is an interesting one. They decided, we'll see, we'll touch on it in a second, but in 1930 to celebrate a 300th anniversary of the Pavonia settlement, which some of you may know. A lot of you are even more scholars of the original Dutch period than I. But in any event, you know that, yeah, 1630s, and Michael Paul got the patroonship for all of the land that today is Jersey City. So they decided, okay, so that was when Pavonia, the Latin for Paul, was established in 1630. So they celebrated a 300 then. Then in 1960, which was the 300th anniversary of Bergen, they did another tercentenary. 2019, some people got together and did a Bergen Square Day. I have 2021 with question marks because that's coming this year, and we'll have images and things to consider for, just what did the people do in 2021 and compare that to previous years and learn from history that way. And someday, maybe 100 years from now, people will look back and say, wait a second, they started doing Bergen Square Day every year. But what happened to 2020? Aha, there was a pandemic then. So commemorations can tell us something about history. All right, so let's dig into that. Here's a little medallion from the 1910 250th anniversary. That anniversary really did celebrate Bergen. People had a consciousness that they were selling 250 years of Bergen. 1910 was still a dynamic time for Jersey City. It had only become Jersey City 40 years earlier in 1870. We can see that there was still a sense of that Jersey City was made up of different villages or smaller townships. In fact, I'm going to cut ahead for a second. Here we go. You can see that there was a fascinating series of what they call tableau of pupils from PS11, right? From same school. They created these tableaus, basically posed still pictures, and they're fascinating. They tell us a lot. But anyway, this first one, you can see there are all the different components that in 1870 were merged into Jersey City, and the position of these people or these kids, really, how they're dressed, what they're exactly doing, certainly ripe for interpretation. I would like that. This was the forward to the program. I know that these are out there, the programs or booklets from 1910. There are a few copies floating around. Of course, there's one in the New Jersey room. But it's interesting that, yes, most definitely in 1910, they were celebrating 250 years of Bergen. All right. What else did they do? Saw that one. Check this out. This is another tableau of students. And I'll give you, you can see the title on the newspaper coverage of it, Making Good Indians. So what is a good Indian? Basically, whoops, went ahead again. A good Indian seems to be one who's killed. That was the way that they thought it was appropriate and I guess meaningful to present history in 1910. You see Dutch soldiers with guns, Indians have hatchets, people on the ground. Yeah, he speaks for itself. All right, and they have the kids posing for these. Then there's this fascinating one, famous image that you may have seen before. This is Jane Tours, right? The famous Jane Tours who saved the country by, getting the information about what's names, Andre and oh my goodness, major gap on my. You guys know who I'm talking about, Benedict Arnold, right? And saving Washington's army. Anyway, she got supposedly the story, which is documented, is that she brought the critical information into Manhattan to Francis Tavern, and that is Samuel Francis being depicted there. 1910, right? First, there's this myth out there of that Samuel Francis was called Black Sam. And I've only done a little bit of research to start to dug into it. But basically, the answer is this. We don't know if Samuel Francis, who started famous Francis Tavern, which is now a museum in Lower Manhattan, we don't really know what his ethnicity, his ancestry was, whether he was a black man or not. No one's really sure. But in the 19th century, it was popular to refer to him as Black Sam and to assume that he was black. But that being said, nonetheless, they decided, if they thought he had been black, to have a white person in blackface portray him. So, again, this tells us maybe more about the history of 1910 than it does about the American Revolution. All right, moving on. And then this is another tableau from 1910, and you see there was a kind of romanticization going on of the Dutch colonial period, leaving a lot of stuff out. But you know, elevating the Dutch to something of a romanticized level. Here you have school kids in you know, old Dutch clothing, the wooden shoes, the whole bit. By the way, there were also, and some of you are familiar with these late 19th century, early 20th century histories of Bergen and Jersey City, written Van Winkle, Eaton, etc. And they all pretty much tell the same story. In 1910, we see, you know, the original Dutch settlers are referred to as brave, stout men, you know, conquering pioneers who, you know, conquered the wilderness, etc., and started this lasting village. This will change that field. 1930, program of the Pavonia Tercentenary celebration. So this is what they decided to celebrate in 1930. That's the title, but maybe what they decided to celebrate was Mayor Hague. That's another whole history presentation, of course. But we all are familiar with the substantial role of Mayor Hague in Jersey City history. So they decided to do this 300th anniversary in 1930. They put together a celebration. There's some records extant on this that I've looked through. I think one thing of interest, I don't have it here in front of me, was that the kids that PS11 put on a play in 1930. And for that play, they depict old Kieft, the director general who preceded Stuyvesant, and Stuyvesant as villainous tyrants. Their treatment of the Indians as murderous. That's just 20 years later, and the depiction has changed. Anyway, if nothing else, this was to glorify Mayor Hague. Fascinating. All right, let's go to 1960. This was the tercentenary of Bergen, 1660 to 1960. This program was interesting. This was the 29th Americanization Day celebration. This, you know, tells us an awful lot. Americanization was a kind of a 20th century offshoot of the nativist movement. And I think this history is important because we all know that in 2020, 2021, this nativist impulse, this idea that America somehow is for people of white, you know, Northern European descent, goes back. That comes from the early 19th century when you had the first wave of non-Northern European, or no, excuse me, non-English immigrants, Irish, Germans, etc., to the United States, and the nativist movement was born, saying we don't want these different sounding people with this crazy Catholic religion, etc. So that nativist movement was, you know, became part and parcel of the American ethos and lasted into the 20th century. When in the early part of the 20th century, when you had, you know, waves of massive waves of immigrants from Southern and Eastern Europe and other places as well, it took hold even more strongly. Prior to, you know, around World War I, etc. I mean, it was intense. They sent people just back out of the country. 1920s, you have another rise of nativism, and out of that comes this idea of Americanization. Fascinating and, if not disturbing, concept is the idea that immigrants should assimilate. By assimilate, they mean learn and speak English and adopt. They make statements about this American values, whatever they are, et cetera, and American culture, whatever that is. But that somehow this Americanization process needs to take place, and it's celebrated in 1960. Today we kind of have the opposite of that. You can view multiculturalism as the opposite of Americanization. Let's celebrate all the difference rather than try to make everybody one thing. But for 1960, Americanization was the thing. What else? Here's the program from the Parade of Nations. By the way, let me point this out too. In 1960, in contrast to 1910, 1910 was, yeah, very much a celebration of Bergen. By 1960, even though it is the 300th anniversary of Bergen, it really was a Jersey City celebration. It took place citywide. What happened in Bergen Square? That was the reviewing stand for the big parade, which wove throughout the whole city. This Parade of Nations was an event that took place down in Lincoln Park. The events in 1960 were spread out over a full week. And you can, I thought this was interesting because they're trying to be Jersey City, city of immigrants. They're trying to be somewhat inclusive here. That's fascinating what they determined: Hellenic American, Ukrainian American, Spanish American, German American, Polish American, Italian American, Irish American, and Negro American. Well, we know very well the diversity that we celebrate in Jersey City. Well, here it is. Here's how it was presented in 1960. All right. In addition, published as part of the tercentenary in 1960s, this article celebrating Jersey was an early haven to escaped Negro slaves. But again, fascinating. I mean, the language speaks for itself. What words they used in 1960. I pulled out the quote from this: "The Negro in Jersey City has risen from slavery to a respected place in the Jersey City community. Imported from Africa to till the farms of Bergen in the 17th century, the slave was common locally until Quaker indignation in South Jersey led to the passage of state anti-slavery laws. In the years immediately preceding the Civil War, the people of Jersey City became leaders in the movement to halt the enslavement of the Negro in the South." This is by Meyer Rowan. I offer that to you for your consideration. Again, some of you know the history better. As far as my knowledge goes, slavery was not outlawed in New Jersey until pretty late. I think something like 1846. We know very much about the presence of the Underground Railroad in Jersey City. I don't know about this business in the last paragraph, but it's interesting. Again, this is how it was written in 1960. Would it be written again the same today? I leave that to you. The Girl Scouts were part of Jersey City's 300th anniversary. This is fascinating. Power to the Girl Scouts, but look at from this salute program, they wrote this, which is really interesting. Again, it's 1960. It tells us about 1960. The girl is a homemaker and member of the family. That's the first of the four-sided point of the Girl Scout program. Oh, fascinating. All right, what else? Here's the, this probably by the dress. This is 1910. Again, the flags, the reviewing stand in front of the school. This is definitely 1960. I thought this was an interesting characterization of Journal Square, Bergen Square, from hitching post to parking meters. Echoes of the transportation presentation I gave you guys in February. All right. This is also, I don't know if you can see it or not, but I threw this in here. They wrote a song for the 300 called the Jersey City Tercentenary Song. It's rather non-committal, should I say. And maybe that says something also about that time. And here's some memorabilia. These things are all from the New Jersey room at the public library. Very interesting. But again, it's the 300th anniversary technically of Bergen, but it was by this time it's clearly been adopted by Jersey City as a whole. That's how it's seen. So that makes our Bergen Square the original heart of Jersey City. And there are those stamps. Close up with those. They certainly celebrated the church at that time. These are nice. All right. And then we get to 2019. And once again, we have action, and celebration, and commemoration in Bergen Square. So I've just offered you a few of these pictures. Okay. We have theater. Of course, I want to try to get everybody excited for Bergen Square Day coming up, October 23rd. These pictures also reveal how the square has changed. Now that, in your heads, you've just been seeing it from different time periods. Look at how it's evolved. And where do we want it to go? That's the interesting question. We've got those empty storefronts. We have a lot of possibilities. So here's the theater. By the way, this year, the theatrical presentations will take place at the Apple Tree House. of a slightly different layout. But stay tuned for that. All right, so people commemorating. And here it is, speaking of the Apple Tree House, coming soon, the Jersey City History Museum. I really don't have any new announcements except to say that on July 20th, well, we met with the mayor once already, a bunch of us they invited from the community. And he said, look, by Labor Day, I want you guys to bring everybody that you can think of, community groups from around the city, history people, museum people, and come up with a plan to set up some kind of entity to get this rolling as the Jersey City History Museum. We have to report back by Labor Day. So we're having a meeting on July 26th, and I will certainly keep the association updated on that. All right, so special thanks to John Beekman in the New Jersey room of the Jersey City Free Public Library. That is the source of most of what you've just seen. All right, folks. I welcome your questions and comments. If I can get out of the share. Okay. Let's see. From Chris Lamb. Did you see the parallels in the messaging of statues and events in JC early 20th century Confederate statues? Yes, absolutely. Although, let's think about it. Those Confederate statues, and it has been written, were meant in some ways to basically keep Black people in the South enslaved, to remind them of, look, these are the people, right, that we value, the ones who fought to maintain slaveocracy. So I'm not so sure that the statues and events from 1910 were directed against Black people as the Confederate statues are. However, I think it would be safe to say that maybe the romanticization and the celebration of the Dutch colonial period in 1910 could be viewed as a reaction to the rapidly changing nature of Jersey City with the influx of immigrants from other parts of Europe. All right, question from Bill. When in 1960 did they celebrate? It was in June, I believe, but that's a good question. Maybe it was on that program. Well, it's an easy thing to find out. But it was in the warmer months, that much I know. Okay. Any other questions? I think I'm seeing them all. So any other questions or comments? Well, thank you all for listening. I appreciate it. And if you do have any more questions or comments, feel free. If someone can put up history@jsqca.com. There we go. Any questions or comments? And again, I'll remind everyone, Bergen Square Day 2021 is coming up October 23rd, and we will probably have a big meeting somewhere in mid-August where we'll put together our army of volunteers for the day, because we will need the equipment. All right. Yes, Bill. There are several visits of JFK in Journal Square in 1960. But someone, on Facebook, a lot of people post all these excellent photographs from Journal Square and Bergen Square, from all over Jersey City, but they often don't have captions or citations, so I'm not really sure where they're from. But I've seen JFK, I've seen FDR, I've seen Teddy Kennedy, actually, in 1980 in Journal Square. But in the early and middle part of the 20th century, Hudson County was critical to carrying the state of New Jersey. So a presidential candidate who wanted New Jersey would come to Journal Square. And I think Bill, if I'm not mistaken, didn't Nixon come to St. Peter's in '68? I remember you mentioning that. So, maybe today New Jersey doesn't get so much political attention. It did in the 20th century. No other questions. Thank you. Dario, it's all yours.
Thank you, James. I learned something. Sorry, there's some noise there, background noise. Okay, perfect. Thanks, James. I learn something new every time you give a presentation. That was really fantastic. Thank you so much for that. I feel like, presentation by presentation, I'm becoming more of a Bergen Square and Jersey City expert. So thanks again. And yeah, now we'll move on to Paul Dennison, who's the president of the Jersey City Theater Center, and he will discuss Theater Center with us, and several other JCTC representatives will also join us. And Paul, I'll let you take it away.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, and you can bring in the other folks from JCTC. That's fine. I'll just start off. My name is Paul Dennison. I serve and volunteer as board president for Jersey City Theater Center. I want to thank Bill and Jovina and you, Dario, for inviting us to your meeting this evening. And we appreciate the time that you've allotted us to share about JCTC. I also want to thank Kevin for helping facilitate and introducing me to Jovina. And I also want to thank again Bill and Maya, who've supported JCTC over the years and attended our programs and events. And last, I want to recognize Tom, who supports us and serves on our board as well. Let me just introduce quickly who we have here. We have Olga Lamina, who's the co-founder and artistic director, Beth Cope, who is the managing director, and Ashley Baptiste, who is the assistant artistic director. What I really love about JCTC is its programming and this team of people and all the folks that we interact with that help create its culture. I think I've attended most of every theater event or visual arts event since I've gotten introduced to it. And I'll have to tell you that story later. Olga threatened me not to tell that story. What's really interesting is that, each event is unique and special. And that's pretty much why I like, attending each of the theater and visual arts events, because you get a real sense of community when you're engaged. What I love most about JCTC is how we collaborate with artists, performers, with community, and community partners and educators to provide programs that impact kids in school, provide opportunities for local artists, and showcase their creative work. And we tackle crucial social issues through our programming. And also, as part of our ongoing commitment to the community, we often spotlight some of the area businesses, restaurants, to showcase our interconnections and our interdependence. In addition, the Voices International Theater Festival, which is coming up in September and October, shines an international spotlight on Jersey City and the region as an arts and culture destination. Let me just acknowledge that the pandemic has made an impact on JCTC to the effect that we've had to leave our space at Marcellus Studios. And part of our relocation efforts, we are taking a very serious look at the Journal Square area as an option to relocate. And before I turn it over to Olga, every now and then I like to sprinkle a little bit of poetic words and to kind of share relevance of what's going on. And I picked up some words from Amanda Gorman, who's the National Youth Poet Laureate. And she notes, "There is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it." I want to thank you again for the opportunity to be here and share about JCTC, and I'll turn it over to Olga to get more in detail about what we're doing. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you so much, everyone at the board and Association of Journal Square. Very often, my name is Olga Levina, and I'm artistic director of Jersey City Theater Center, but also I'm co-owner of White Eagle Hall. And I heard again and again one question in Jersey City is that many people ask me, how in the world and why in the world one family would spend so much money on building or restoring White Eagle Hall? And it's a valid question because me and my husband, he is a son of immigrants. I am an immigrant from Belarus, and I was born in Ukraine. So when people ask me this question, they consistently ask the question, why theater? Why it's so important for you? Why you're doing what you're doing? And I think the answer goes back into my core belief and in core belief of democracy. The history of the arts and history of theater goes back way to Stone Age, and I'm gonna let Ashley cover that, but I'm gonna go into what place theater play in democracy. So when we talk about theater and we talk about democracies that we're all building in America, right? We have to look into what is democracy. Well, according to dictionary, democracy is a society where members have an equal share of power. Members have equal share of power. So the democracies that we all know, Greek democracy, that American democracy took as a model, always had a governmental building on one side and theater on another. And here in Jersey City, we have also governmental building and Majestic Theater that was destroyed. And in many, many cities in United States, we have the same model, governmental building on one side and theaters on another, representing voices of people. But of course, history developed itself and cities developed, a lot of theaters got destroyed for many different reasons. And we kind of forget that model, right? But for me, coming from Belarus, it is extremely important that the voices of people represented through the arts and through theater are there. So when we spend our money on rebuilding or restoring White Eagle Hall, we did this because we truly, as immigrants, believe in democracy. Now I'm gonna pass it along to Ashley to talk a little bit on the history of the arts and where Jersey City Theater Center stands on it. Ashley?
Hi, thank you, Olga. Yes, for Jersey City Theater Center and the history of theater, the history comes from artists using self-expression, self-realization, and education to have an impact with theater through history. So with Jersey City Theater Center, we have been using our artists, whether it be visual arts, whether it be teaching artists, whether it be through our International Theater Festival, using that self-expression, tell the stories of what's happening in the world universally and then also locally. Self-realization, we're bringing stories of new playwrights, new writers into the space and inviting the community in to see storylines from different point of views so that we can create more of a bond within the community. We can create empathy amongst everyone so we can see how those stories are all connected. We see ourselves within the story. Education, we'll be talking later about Greenville stories and how we have worked with Greenville in Jersey City, and we've created a program for education for young kids, young boys and girls, and help them with becoming artists and finding their voice. And so even if you're trying to be a actor, it actually doesn't matter, because when we're working with these students, we want to make sure they hone in on their confidence, hone in on their leadership skills, and just hone in on just being better people and understanding what their purpose and voice is. So that is where we stand as far as the history of theater, and where Jersey City is as far as how we're trying to own up and step up to the plate for Jersey City community.
And just to add on to that, what's incredible about providing a platform to artists, all artists, making sure everyone is included and that there's equity. And when people have the ability to create that self-expression and bond with their community, there's the interesting thing that happens, which is also that it reinforces an economy. And post-COVID, it creates a basis for recovery. You know, the arts, we employ people. And so, and we also help fill up restaurants, and we help fill up hotels. And so this wonderful place where people can express themselves and be creative is also an anchor into a community for entrepreneurships and businesses to flourish. So we wanted to make sure that people saw that connection. We are a 501c3 nonprofit organization, but we also see ourselves as partners in the business community and partners with our community to help lift everyone up through the arts.
Thank you, Beth. So, and now I'm going to quickly share our screen, and please let me know if you can see it. So I'm gonna, I guess it's not yet. Sorry about this, just give me 1 second. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So Jersey City Theater Center is a non-for-profit 501c3 arts organization that manages programming at White Eagle Hall, and we are looking for another space. We are committed to inspiring conversations about the important topics of our times through innovative and progressive performing and visual arts, embrace the diversity of Jersey City, bringing its community closer together and enhancing its quality of life. Jersey City Theater Center season runs from September to June, and while we present a range of shows, the core of each season are 3 separate thematic series. JCTC selects topics global in scope yet relevant to our community, then explores that themes using visual arts, theater, dance, and other performances. I'm gonna go back to our slides, and we're gonna go with our mission. Ashley?
So our mission is to spark conversations about important topics of our times through the arts, relevant to our community and universal in scope. So as our programming goes on, we make sure to tell the stories that is important to the community is basically what that is. And it's our joy to make sure to continue to do that for everybody, so everyone feels seen and heard.
And of course, as a founder, when I came for the first time, actually, I came to visit my friend, Gregory Gurevich. He invited me to exhibition. And as a dancer, I would get invited a lot to Lincoln Center and Brooklyn Academy of Music. And here I was, first time in Jersey City. And what I fall in love with was something very genuine and real. There was no pretentiousness. And of course, the diversity of Jersey City. And from there, our history began. In 2006, we formed a non-for-profit 501c3 non-for-profit organization, and with one of actually my professors, Jorge Cachero, who's head of Department of Theater and Film at Pace University, and Ben Piccolo, my husband. We started Jersey City Theater Center, and we started renovating White Eagle Hall.
So Jersey City Theater Center's vision is to present high-quality art programming of value to Jersey City communities that fosters a positive image for the city, county, and region. We again consider ourselves partners with the private sector, with the governmental sector, and as well as providing a platform and presenting works of artistic excellence. We also want to help the city and be consistent with helping sustain and build their image. And so these values and vision are very important to us.
So what are our goals? Our goals are to build and, of course, to unite people around Performing and Visual Arts Center. In many cultures, Performing and Visual Arts Centers always called beating heart of the community. So our goals are to build award-winning performing arts center in Jersey City, unite Jersey City's diverse community around the arts, provide performing, visual, and educational arts programming of artistic excellence, contribute to the economic vitality of Jersey City, and promote Jersey City as a cultural destination. And we have a tagline, explore the world through the arts. This is where our international festival comes from as well. Ashley?
Great. So for Stories of Green, 1 second, my screen is adjusting. Just give me a second. I'm sorry. I apologize. All right. So for Stories of Greenville is a multidisciplinary collaborative arts project designed to increase exposure to Greenville community artists and performers. There are workshops, events, educational programs, and performances in one of Jersey City's oldest and vibrant neighborhoods. Greenville Art Walk highlights Greenville artists and area businesses, community organizations as neighbors, visitors celebrate the arts. And then my favorite one is the Summer Youth Arts Camp, Jersey City Anti-Violence Coalition and JCTC collaboration. This was a part of the COVID-19 response designed to help students explore their creativity, develop valuable skill sets. And I just want to say a quick little thing about that is I had the opportunity to work as the lead teaching artist during the Summer Youth Arts Camp for Jersey, part of the Stories of Greenville. And I was able to put together a curriculum specific for the students of Greenville. And it was about specifically telling the stories. And I was able to work with this fantastic young girl who was telling the story of her mother, who is a Greenville, community member who's lived there for many years, and talking about what that life is like. And so I got to see her learn about the community, learn about Greenville, and then also get closer to her mom at the same time and become a better artist and build her confidence when it comes to speaking on Zoom or like talking to people or just speaking up, using her voice, in ways without having to wait for permission. So that was a really amazing experience for me when it came to working as a teaching artist with the Jersey City Theater Center through the Summer Youth Arts Camp program for Greenville Stories. And so I'm going to pass this on to Beth to talk about the main stage productions that we've had here.
So one of my favorite things that I've witnessed and experienced at Jersey City Theater Center is our main stage production called Lines in the Dust. We presented Lines in the Dust at Marcellus Studios But as part of our grant through Garden State Episcopal for our Stories of Greenville project, we also presented the play Close to Greenville at NJCU. And the superintendent of Jersey City Public Schools actually came to see the performance, and we ended up scheduling an additional play at NJCU so that all of the principals from Jersey City could come and see it. This play was based on a story out of Ohio about a woman who was she was a teacher's assistant, and she was actually prosecuted for a felony for residency fraud so that she could get her daughter into a charter school in Ohio. And the story is a bit different in Lines in the Dust, but it still deals with the issue of how do we get our kids equitable education where everybody has a shot to get to that Ivy League school if they want to go and make those scores on the SAT. And this play was an intersection of gentrification, racism, inequity in education, and it was an extraordinary piece. And we were just so grateful and happy that that all of the principals came to see the show. And this is exactly what led to us doing work in PS 15 and also Schneider High School. And that work continued during COVID. And JCTC, we really were intent on continuing to do this Greenville programming even in the midst of the pandemic. And we were able to also show online plays from a South African play group, and also a play about W.E.B. Du Bois. And so we're very proud that we were still, and we did not charge for the majority of our programming while we were online. So we were very happy and grateful that we could still contribute to our community in a significant way during COVID.
Thank you, Beth. And I just would like quickly to add, we are very proud that some of our resident artists, Ibn Sharif Shakur and Terence Williams, opened their own space, art space in Greenville, JC Spot, the Spot, JC, and and it's also came out of this programming. They participated at Jersey City, they had their studios, they learned, and they moved on to open up their own organization. They working under our umbrella, and we helping them to also succeed and work with their artists and students. And I always also say that when people ask me why it is, again, so important to do this work, I always say that, look, to change a law, we can put pen to paper, right, and make changes on a paper. But the most difficult is to change people's minds. And theater does that. It brings people together. And when we tell our stories honestly, we sympathize with each other, and we organically start understanding each other. And I don't think there's anything more important in our society today than to do that, to really understand others who might not have the privileges that some of us do have. So yes, that's an important part of our work, Stories of Greenville, and we are very proud of that. And now we're moving on to Voices International Theater Festival. That idea came from me being a member of APAP for many, many years, Under the Radar International Theater Festival with Public Theater, ISPA. And I met a lot of incredible international artists and work closely with international institutes. And of course, idea of we all in all different languages need art. When I came to this country, my father told me, forget it, forget about arts. You cannot, this is not your country. You're not going to be able to do this. The first generation of immigrants just work hard. You might not even afford theater. And I gave myself a couple of years. And as soon as I saved that first money, I ran to theater. And I could hardly understand, when I went to Broadway, I could hardly understand the language, but I understood that I wanted to be a part of this society. I wanted to learn. I wanted that exchange. So I found my community, artistic community in different theaters, and later on went to school and working 18 hours a day and paying for my theater tickets, because it was extremely important to me to be a part of the culture of United States. And I believe that a lot of people, especially in Jersey City, also have that drive. And with International Theater Festival, we can also bring artists from their countries. And it is just as important to understand culture from abroad as it is to understand culture in our own neighborhoods. So from that philosophy, Voices International Theater Festival came, and of course, because artists are voices of people. So we, in 2017, we presented first international company from Barcelona, and later on in 2019, we started and we presented companies from Spain, companies from Poland, company from South Korea. We presented last year online. Slovakian company also came, and they were performing in our Marsala studios. And we're going to the next slide, Beth.
So this is a rendering by Gernot Rieter, who's the director of the architecture school at New Jersey Institute of Technology in Newark. We actually did last year during COVID have a safe and socially distant event in the park in October for Voices. It was a live screening of some of the theater groups that we showcase from all over the world. You'll see that the blankets are positioned 6 feet apart from each other with just 2 people per blanket. You'll also see that this is a decentralized stage. These cubes can act as screens or stages so that people do not feel the need to all gather together around one focal point area. And so this is how we see post-pandemic the future of theater and festivaling in the park. This is actually at Liberty State Park. The thing that makes this so wonderful for tourism and the economy is, and particularly for people who might be thinking about going to New York, you see on the left side of your screen, that's part of the skyline of our wonderful city, Jersey City, and you also see the Manhattan skyline on the right-hand side. And so the idea is that not only do we have this wonderful, diverse, amazing city for you to stay in and to come to an event like this, but we're also very conveniently located to Manhattan as well. And so it is our hope that Voices International Theater Festival becomes something wonderful for New Jersey in terms of its tourism. That's it.
And of course, we're coming into new space. we formed, our board forms a committee, and we are looking for space because we outgrew our smaller space, Marsala Studios, and White Eagle Hall is more of a music venue. It is a commercial space, and we have to make sure that we can sustain. But we have 25 nights at White Eagle Hall for Jersey City Theater Center. And we would like to make sure that we are located where our programming can be appreciated and also can give the most benefit. We're willing to go to different neighborhoods and work, just like we work with Greenville. We would like to work with all the communities in Jersey City and make sure that when we bring International Theater Festival to Jersey City and artists from India, we host Indian community, we host Latino community when we bring artists from South Africa or Spain. And so is music. So we very much oriented to serve all of the Jersey City because we believe that it is extremely important for everyone to have their voices heard through their own languages, through their own culture, and feel accepted, supported by the arts and seen. I think the more than anything in our country, we're talking about this idea of what does it mean to be seen by others. And we believe that theater plays an incredible, great role in that message of being seen. Beth?
So this quote is from a Bloomberg article that appeared in September of 2020. And the article was generally about how the public and private sector, along with the governmental sectors too, can team up together through the arts to spur economic recovery post-pandemic. And the quote that I pulled is investing in artists and the cultural sector is both a reasonable response and proven way to kickstart recovery. And again, this is how we see ourselves. While we are a 501c3 charitable arts organization, again, we know that when the arts are vibrant in our city and our communities, that we're helping people fill up their restaurants, we're helping them fill up their hotels. And so we don't see ourselves as just holding our hands out for our community to contribute money to the arts. We see ourselves as an active, vibrant partner, assisting and contributing and being a partner in our economic recovery post-COVID. And these are one of the ways we hope to work with Journal Square.
So what are our models, right? Every organization, everyone allowed to dream in America. What is our dream? So like I said, being an immigrant, being a dancer, I always look up to Brooklyn Academy of Music because it's organizations that brings international art. It's organizations that works incredibly with their diverse community, employs locally. They have film, from opera to film, and exceptional educational programming and outreach. We also have mentioned public theater, and we partners actually with Under the Radar, and for January we're probably going to bring together Belarus Free Theater, and of course also Lincoln Center. It just seems like those three organizations would be incredible models for Journal Square. And I don't know if anybody would like to add anything about the models Public Theater or Brooklyn Academy of Music, but we're also gonna take any questions later on. So
Yeah, I think those are great. What you said is definitely adds to what we are trying, what we would like to model ourselves after. I love the work, I think public theater, the work that is created, the conversation with the community. It's off-Broadway theater, but the stuff that they create is always new and vibrant and kind of like always speaking to what's happening right now. So I think that we absolutely want to model ourselves after that. And then the dance portion of Jersey City Theater Center, working with BAM, the Brooklyn Academy of Music, like having that model, I think is a nice way to integrate the both, and then also matching a really wonderful developing an educational program, for the community. So I just wanted to
thank you,
second and say
Ashley.
those are good ones. Yeah.
Thank you. And also thinking about what actually speaks to our community, just like Lions in the Dust. When we brought that play, it touched the heart because it spoke to what's going on in America today, and it was before pandemic. It was actually one of our last plays that we produced before pandemic. So thinking locally and globally. And here's some of the organizations, some of the sponsors that supported our festival last year. And I think we're done. Finally, I'm going to be able to see you all. Okay, I think, yeah.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much for that presentation. You're such an asset to Jersey City, and we'd love to, collaborate with you guys in the future. So I think we'll move on to questions. Anu, do you want to present the questions, or? Okay, so I don't know if you guys see the questions down at the bottom of the screen.
Mhm.
Okay.
We do.
So great. So I'll read the first one. So Bill asks, now that you've lost your space at Merciless Center, do you have a temporary location for your productions during the coming theater season?
Yes, we have 25 nights at White Eagle Hall. We also have different locations and partners that we're talking for our International Theater Festival, and as well as our productions. Yes, we do have some around the city, some spaces, and also educational programs. So we're not looking for one space, we're looking for multiple spaces so we can serve the diverse community.
Excellent, excellent.
So Bill, if you have any recommendations, you have my email.
That's a great question.
Oh.
Are you planning to leverage the JCT? Oh, please read, or I could read.
Yeah, no, I apologize. My mic went off, but yeah, we should just for the benefit of anybody who can't see the screen. Are you planning to leverage the JC Lowe's Theater for future festivals or events? Similar to how the New Jersey Film Festivals do it.
Yes, so I think the most important is to utilize the space accordingly, and I think it's the most important for every artistic director is not to get the best grande space, the most beautiful space, but the most important is to tell the story, right? So if the story is right for Lowe's, then yes. If the story is right for parking lot, then we're going to be at the parking lot.
Great. And now another question is how is JCTC planning to leverage collaboration with Pompidou? Have you at all thought? I know the announcement's pretty recent, but do you guys have any ideas about that? Have you been in touch with the city about Pompidou at all? Have they reached out to you?
We have a really good relationship with the city. We talk to them a lot. With the Pompidou, I mean, obviously, we feature a French company during the International Theater Festival. And so obviously, that is something that interests us. We know that there's a lot of opinions going on about the Pompidou in the city. And most of all, we want to support our community and make sure that whatever it is that we're doing is supporting the artists that we have in the community. But certainly anything that anchors down the city as an arts destination helps everyone.
Are there any other questions? Well, I think Carol has a comment. Do you guys, what's your relationship with Mana? Do you have a relationship with them? Have you collaborated with them in the past? Do you have any plans to in the future?
It's a great question because we had Marcellus Studios and we have also White Eagle Hall. Yes, I go to Mana all the time, but we were not really collaborating closely with Mana. Not because of anything. It just never came to it. We were busy to kind of serve our own audience, and were with 2 theaters. It was a lot.
Great. And I guess Mandar has another question. How can the Journal Square community help you guys accomplish your mission and future goals?
So we see Journal Square is crossroads, the future heart of the city, and we're not afraid to live downtown if we have to, and start working. I'm an immigrant myself, like I said in the presentation, and start from zero and start building relationships and working with the community, making sure that we stand up to our mission, that we bring diverse programming, and we serve diverse communities, meaning not what communities can do for us, but how we can reach out to all different communities in Journal Square area, in Greenville area, in the Heights, in downtown. We not interested in serving only one population. And those who know my programming knows that I'm very interested in bringing stories that that I don't know personally, that are different than me.
I would like to add that we, first of all, someone on your board is also on our board, Tom Zuppa. So we're very grateful for his board service and leadership, but we're always looking for others to help lead and support the organization. You can serve on our board of trustees, you can serve on a committee. We just had an extraordinary committee help us with the Hudson Gives philanthropy and fundraising campaign done through Hudson County. And it was extraordinary. I think that there were a couple of those members who might have been from the Journal Square area or who had businesses there. But I'll just say that we're always, we don't want to, as Olga said, we don't want to be downtown centric. We want leadership and volunteers and committee members from all over the city. So, rolling up your sleeves and joining us is one of the best ways you can support us. Obviously, as we mentioned, we're looking for space, and so your business community might be able to help us scout out space as well.
Yeah, and help us, just genuinely help us being a part of the community and help us to serve diverse community of Jersey City, because like I said, it's so incredibly important for us to know each other's stories.
Absolutely.
This is how we're going to come together. This is the only way we're going to come together.
Yeah. So performing arts are a wonderful vehicle for spreading understanding. Absolutely. Awesome. Are there any other questions? I don't know if do you see any other questions? I can't seem to scroll down.
I just wanted to thank Bill real quick for the shout out about enjoying Lines in the Dust. Thanks, Bill, for your support.
Yes, thank you so much, Bill, and New Jersey Together too for serving.
Yeah.
Jersey City, because it's all about speaking the truth and making sure that voices of people being heard.
Excellent. Okay, so I don't see any other questions, but again, thanks for taking the time to join us, and it's all about JCTC and your goals, mission. It's wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
And,
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Great to
you.
be here tonight.
have a good
Yes,
evening.
Thank
thank you so
you.
much for
Thank
having
you.
us.
Sure. Okay, so our meeting is almost over. I'm just going to go over a few reminders. So I mentioned it at the beginning, but in August we'll have a barbecue at the Apple Tree House, and again, our first in-person function in well over a year. And I hope to see as many of you as possible out there. Be wonderful. Also, the Green Committee will be meeting on Wednesday, July 21st at 7 p.m. Kate Lawrence, Director of the City Sustainability Office, will discuss the Climate, Energy, and Action Plan. And you can email Bill at Armbruster, ARMBRUSTER, at Comcast.net if you're not on the mailing list and wish to attend. Or, reach out to any of us, if you need to be on if you want to be on any of the committees. So beyond that, the History Committee just wants to issue a reminder that Bergen Square Day is on October 23rd. Big day, very exciting. Everyone had a blast in 2019, so please come out if you can. And if you want to volunteer in any capacity, email history@jsqca.com. With Bergen Square Day in the subject line. We're always looking for volunteers for that. And it's enjoyable, you'll have fun. Anyone who would like to participate as a vendor or with a table, please register at bergensquareday.com. And yeah, if you're interested in volunteering, just write to history at JSQCA.com with BSD volunteer, or again, Bergen Square Day or BSD volunteer in the subject line. Let's see if there's anything else. So I think that's it. Thank you so much for attending this meeting. Again, we got to learn so much about Bergen Square today, Jersey City history, as well as Jersey City's future with performing arts. And thank you all for attending the meeting and for your wonderful questions. And have a good evening.